If you aren't doing this after every single speech, then I promise you are not going to get as good as you can be on stage. Hey, welcome back to the Speak to Freedom podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Trucks. Today is another solo episode because I enjoy doing these. I find that I like to teach you and talk to you about these nuanced ideas that allow me to kind of bring to you the insights that happen behind the scenes of a $25,000 per keynote speaker, but also like a seven-figure speaking business. When I go into the world, I serve at a high level, and I found that a lot of the little nuggets that nobody is able to understand or even feel they are happening, but they're watching them in real time. They're things you could learn quickly, like the things you see, you could actually apply to your speaking business now. So if you're in a position going, hey, I want to grow my skill set on stage, I want to give you some nuggets and ideas of what you can do to analyze yourself after a speech to go, hey, I can adjust this for the next time I go on stage. And that's really the key thing. I find that most folks just watch themselves or don't because it's too cringy to watch yourself. So you go, oh, I don't want to notice or see what I did. And so you kind of back away from this, never watch it. But your gut knows you didn't do very well up there. And so what happens is you don't push yourself out there. You're a little apprehensive. You don't push really hard to sell yourself or even market properly because you know that if you go up there again, you might have another mistake and you don't want to feel that. You don't want to experience that exact same feeling over and over again. And so I had the same thing early on. I was like, man, I'm not feeling like I'm doing very well. I got to adjust some things. I didn't know what to adjust though. I didn't know what to change. I didn't know how to make sure the next time I went out there, I wouldn't face this exact same problem. And so I started going through this journey internally of going, well, how do I watch myself on video and fix it? And then I had this interesting idea pop up. I go, well, I used to play professional football. And from, high school straight to college to the pros, we always watched film. And the interesting thing was film was the key to getting better, not just for tendencies for other people, but for yourself. Right? A lot of film watching is not others. It's like watching yourself do certain things and watching other people who are doing it right, figure out from them what you can apply to your game to be better at it. So I go, why don't I just adapt that same mentality over to the speaking industry? And I did. And so what I did was I realized this kind of simple logic. When I would watch film, I would know what's right or wrong. I go, well, how did I know what was right or wrong? Oh, well, there was a play outlined and I was supposed to do this thing in the play. And I could gauge and grade. In fact, we would grade ourselves on how well I performed the structure or the task or the job in that play, right? Were my feet in the right position? Were my hands in the right position? Did I strike with force? Did I key the right things? Was I going forward? Was I going backwards? Did I move properly? Whatever it might have been. Was I covering the right guy or not? There was a foundational play that gave me the ability to compare and go, did I do this or did I not do this? And it gave me some objectivity in terms of how I could improve. And when you do this, it allows you to go, oh, that's why I messed it up. You get clarity as to what the problem was, and then you realize it's fixable. You can manipulate yourself and you can adjust your what you're doing on the field to play better next time you go out there. So I go, why don't I just do that for the football or for the speaking world? Like, why don't I try that with what I'm doing? So I went out and said, hey, what are some of the most unique and critical things necessary to produce an amazing on-stage keynote, performance-wise, delivery-wise, telling stories, all these different pieces. And I came up with something. We have a process that we call it, and I'm not going to dive too deep into giving you the goods because that's something that I definitely know that my clients have invested in, but I am going to give you the overarching, really, really good level of understanding exactly what to think through. Now, if you want to have the depths of it, you can look at the link below this video. There's going to be some ways you can find out more about what we do and how we serve. But I promise this video is going to break down for you exactly what you can look at when watching yourself to find a way to improve. Now, here are the things that I'm going to walk through. It's a few steps, but I'm going to unpack them all for you. The first step here is you want to pay attention to how you start your keynote. Starting is a big piece. Now, you don't create the keynote starting with the beginning in mind. You don't do that. You start with the end in mind. We'll get to that point when we get to the very end of this. But the first thing first is you have to think about how are you going to start the keynote? What are you going to do to engage with people? And I'm a big person, and you engage with the audience. You'll know who you are, and you have to get them to engage in a sense of responding to you, but also knowing where the conversation's going to go that they desire to know, so they stay in their seats, they keep their phones put away. right? If you don't do this, you're going to lose people early on because they're not going to be engaged with you. So they're not going to be smiling and engaging and putting their hand in the air. None of that stuff takes place. So they're waiting for you to start talking, right? And then on top of this, if you don't outline exactly where you're going in the time on stage, they don't know why to pay attention. They also don't know what you're saying in a sense of the value it has for where you're going. So you could say the most incredibly cool thing, but if there's no framing of where this fits, there's no reference point to place this, you lose individuals and they walk out of the room. Now, this is also, keep in mind, I'm talking about when you have a keynote that's going to be a longer keynote, maybe a 20-minute to 60-minute keynote. If it's a 5 or 7-minute kind of really short speech, you have to dive right into the keynote. You have to dive, I'm talking right into the story, put me in the thick of it. It was 20 degrees Fahrenheit. I had no shoes on. I'm standing on this pavement outside cold, right? Place me right now in the spot, right? And it's dark outside. So you can place this person, and that's how you start a shorter keynote. But a longer keynote, you're going to have people there for a while. If you don't engage them early on and let them know where we're going, you're going to lose them. And then all of a sudden, midway through the keynote, you start seeing people walk out and you don't even know why. It's because they didn't know what to do with what you're telling them. But if you start everything with letting them know where it's going to go and you have fun with them early on to get them kind of bought into who you are and get to know you briefly, well, now they're on for the ride. They're hearing all these cool things, but everything they hear, they can place it somewhere to bring it value. If you don't give them that clarity, you lose them. The next thing is you must be in control of the tonality of your voice. Like for me, I'm not doing craziness right now, but I'm like, we'll call this like a 5. But when I'm on stage, I'm a 10.5, we'll call it, right? I go hard. But the idea is my goal is to realize that individuals, humans, they listen to music often. There's a melody to the voice and a melody to music that they like. And so if you have a melodic tone and you go up and you go down and you all these little ones high pitched, you go up and you go down, right? If you do that to the flow, now they hear the tonality, they adjust. It's funny, it's clever, it's dark and stormy and epic, right? You can create these moments of movement with your voice. And now what happens is you get to utilize your voice to create an emotion in people that are just sitting there on a chair listening to you. And you have to understand how to utilize this tool. And it's a tool. Your voice is a tool. So use it properly when trying to elicit an emotion to move people. So when you watch yourself on camera, go, was I monotone the whole time and I talked like this? Or were you going up and down and telling stories like you were talking to children? And it sounds funny, but there's a reason why it can keep the attention of a kid. If it can keep the attention of a kid, it can keep the attention of any adult you meet, right? It's a big piece of it. Next thing is you got to be aware of the energy of the people in the room and yourself. How do you feel? How are you showing your energy on stage? And how are they feeling in the audience? How are they navigating the emotions of what you're talking to? And you must be in a position where you're controlling their energy, controlling their emotions. If there's a spike in a lower, good, are you in control of that? And if you get them to a low point, can you get them up again? If you get them to a high point, can you bring them back down? Right? You can't have somebody in low lows for too long. There's too much sadness. You also can't put them in high highs for too long because there's a lot of draining energy there. So your job is to make it a beautiful wave of a roller coaster up and down throughout your entire talk. And when you're doing it with good vocality behind it and your voice is being used properly, it's amazing. People love this. They have a great energy. You have a great energy. It's fun. That's what you want. Fun and informative and impactful and inspiring. That's how you change the game in that aspect. Now, this next one is one that's incredibly important, and I can't go crazy deep into it, but here's the thing. You must make sure that you are focused on telling stories, not stating stories. What this means is whenever you are giving a keynote, most people go, yeah, it was, I had this job that I didn't like, and so I left the job and I went to another job, and this job was better. Like, what does that even mean? Like, it's weird, right? But if you give me a story like, I went to this job and I would walk in every day and I'd step on this old dirty mat that they had. And I remember walking past my boss's, door, and every time I walked past, he'd just say, hey, you, what are you doing? Like, he'd just yell at me. And I remember just like, as he would say that, I just felt this shudder of emotion in my body going, oh, I hate this man. And I look at other people like smirking at me. And I walk to my desk in this cold office and I could smell some of the heated fish up in the background because, no one cared about, using the microwave for their nasty seafood. Like, create this space. And then I, at one point I remember walking in and I had this, the boss walk up and go, hey, you're fired. It's the first time I liked the idea of getting fired. I felt my body melt and I felt free. And I turned and walked out that door. I don't even know what he said to me, but I kept on walking. Right. And then you can tell more of the story. But now I'm not just in a situation where I'm stating it, I'm telling it. I'm giving you emotion behind it. I'm having you picture something. And now you are in a different space emotionally going along this ride with me. So you need to be in a position where when you're telling stories that have amazing lessons, which they should, they're told in a way that's colorful and fully embodied, as opposed to stating what happened. Okay, now the next one is you must have an incredible physicality on stage. You have to be able to move in a way that gets people to pay attention to you, because your job is not to stand behind the podium reading a piece of paper, right? Now, that may be a good speech for some people at like valedictorian speech and everything. That's great. But you're a keynote speaker, you have a whole room to cover. Like, I was just literally filming this. I was yesterday in a room of 1,500 people at Best Buy. I can't stay in one spot on the stage. I got to move, right? I got to go left. I got to go right. I got to cover ground. If I don't cover ground, then what happens is half the room feels like I never talked to them. I'm over here talking this one little section for too long, right? You got to cover ground and go back and forth and left and right. And this creates a really, really beautiful experience for everybody involved. But your job is to create that physicality. Now, it's not just moving, it's creating spaces in their head that are on stage. Like over here, and like using space over here. When I was a kid, I had this cool little bike and it had handlebars. And like you show the handlebars, right? And it had this, this beautiful little seat and show the movement of the seat, right? You create this physical space with your words and the space on stage. You've got to create this picture so they can see what they're looking at, even though they're not actually seeing it. Use the imagination as best you can, right? The next thing is you have to be in a position where you look incredibly comfortable on this stage. You should be up there when you watch yourself go, hey, do I look comfortable? My hand positioning, is it my thumbs in my pocket? Are my thumbs out? Are my hands even near my pocket? Are they crossed across my body? Am I moving openly? Am I taking small steps? Am I being timid? Like, is my voice sound muffled? Like, all these little things you have to pay attention and go, do I look confident? And here's why. If you have an amazing message to get into somebody's head and somebody's heart, but for some reason I look at you and I go, this person doesn't feel confident, I am in no way going to believe what you say. And an audience won't literally enjoy it as much as they could. They definitely won't embrace and absorb it as much as they should, because you don't even look like you're paying attention or look like you care about it, because your body is showing me you don't believe this. So you must have a sense of complete comfort in what it is you're talking about, where you talk about it, I'm going, either this person is crazy or they're serious and they're right. And those two things, if you aren't crazy, I'm going to assume you're right. I'm going to buy in more, right? And if I see you bought in by your body language, I'm going to buy in emotionally from the seats. That's how you create inspiration, because you'll buy into it. Now, the last piece of this is you must close it like a pro. And when I say like a pro, a few things have to happen, because the goal is a standing ovation, right? I just got one yesterday. Super cool. Got it from Best Buy. It's an amazing feeling. But it's not an accident. There's a really unique way that I've structured my keynotes to make sure that when it happens, people are going like this. They know it's over. It's a big piece. Do they know that the speech is over? Do they have any clue you're ending? If they don't know you're ending in any way, then it ends up feeling like this really weird like ending, and like, oh, I guess they're finished, and they didn't know and you didn't know, and it's just, it just kind of falls off a cliff and it dies, and it feels gross. It doesn't feel very good at all, I'm being honest. So the idea is you have to make sure you plan and strategize your ending so they know it's ending. How do you do that? You start with your whole entire keynote design with crafting the ending first. It's critical. You craft the ending before you craft the beginning. If you don't craft the ending properly, you run yourself into a cliff you have no idea how to stay on. And all of a sudden you're like, I don't know how to end this thing. It's weird. You don't do that. You start with the ending in mind, and that allows you to create your opening, which then fills in the space between the two in a keynote. But start with the ending. Design that properly so you know when it concludes and how, and it should be tied to your thesis statement, which is the reason that they're there. Like I said earlier, tell them why they're there, right? Now, also, the very end should be something where you get them so excited about what it is you talked about that they can't wait to get more of you. Your keynote should be designed to get the next keynote or the next coaching client or the next consulting client. If you don't design your keynote to have that specific stuff included within it, you are leaving impact and income on the table every single time you speak. It's got to be put out there throughout the keynote. I'm talking simplistically woven in, very strategic, to where when you are done, they go, all right, I don't know how, but I got to get some more of this person. If you do everything right, that happens seamlessly. People will love you. They'll want more of you. It gets you on more stages. It gets you paid more in time. And you also get amazing clients in the process. So my friend, that is how you structure, or at least not structure, but pay attention to how well you did on a stage. If you can think through this and create your own rubric, which we have a rubric as well, if you can think through this entire rubric and create one, you can today start watching old videos and see yourself and go, okay, I can fix this. I can adjust this. And so now what happens is you create an awareness of opportunity for yourself, of where you can improve, where you can do better. And so now you have a little bit of hope. And that hope's going to make you want to go out and speak more often and do more on a stage because you know how to improve yourself. And little by little by little, you'll see yourself getting to a stance later on of going, man, I'm an incredible speaker. I'm super confident. I can't wait to get on more stages. Now, if you want some help with this, you want us to show you exactly how our Speak to Freedom formula works, which is really dialed into this and so many more stages, simply go down below this video. You'll see a link, hit the link wherever it's at. But here's the big key. If you go to speaktofreedom.com, you'll see what it is we do as a company. We help individuals not just get great on stage, but get great at getting onto stage. If you want that, I'd love to help you. Go to speaktofreedom.com. Outside of that, I'll see you in the next episode. That's a wrap for today's episode of the Speak to Freedom podcast. I hope you found our discussion inspiring and informative. Now, if you enjoyed today's episode and want to stay updated on all our future releases, be sure to hit the subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you for tuning in today. Until next time, remember to speak with confidence and clarity so you can one day soon speak to freedom. See you in the next episode.